Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going back in time to 2019. So not particularly far back in time. We're going back to 2019 to the 11th of November to take a look at a transit of Mercury. So here we are, the 11th of the 11th, 2019. If we take a closer look at the sun, I think that the transit of Mercury may be ongoing. We might be able to see Mercury just here in front of the sun. There we go. So this transit of Mercury was the last transit of Mercury that we had. We also had one in 2016. Before that, it was the much earlier 2000s, 2003, for example. We can see that from here in Ireland, we're seeing the beginning of the transit of Mercury. Mercury comes onto the face of the sun. We're seeing it moving towards the center of the sun, and then the sun sets, I believe, there we go, or at least gets behind the trees and buildings before we get to see the end of the transit. So these transits can last for quite a while. These transits can last for hours, much longer than an eclipse, a solar eclipse by the moon. The planets Mercury and Venus transiting the sun, that can last for much, much longer. We're seeing Mercury kind of come in towards the top of the sun. North would be up in that direction, the north pole of the sun, and then moving kind of across its surface. If we were to take a look at this eclipse from a different location, we would be able to see all of the eclipse, and it would look like it was passing closer to the center of the sun as well. So when we're looking at things that happen closer to us, we're often able to see evidence of the phenomenon of parallax, which is things looking like they're in a different position if they're closer to us relative to things behind them. So we can see Mercury there coming up, making a loop, and going down the other side. Part of the reason it looks like it's making this big swinging shape is because we are watching it as it crosses the sky. We're watching it move past the zenith. So some of this rotation, this curved look, is actually down to the Earth moving, the Earth turning and turning away from the sun. If you have watched many of my videos, you might know that something similar happens to the moon. If we watch the moon rise, come up to the zenith, and then sink down on the other side, it looks like the moon's turning in the sky, rotating as it does so. We might take a look at that a little bit later as an example, but what I really want to do is take a look at this transit of Mercury from the sun. If we have a transit of Mercury from the sun, that means we will have Mercury transiting the Earth. So we'll need to have a look around here. There's the Earth and Mercury. The labels are practically on top of each other, which is a good sign. That means we are pretty much seeing the transit almost. We'll have to grab Mercury here and then take a closer look. Mercury, of course, a very small planet. If we move through time here, we should be able to get Mercury and the Earth to appear to get closer together instead of further apart. There we go. It looks like we're on the wrong position of the sun from here to see Mercury directly in front of the Earth. Similarly to how some portions of the Earth wouldn't be able to see the transit. So we're going to have to change our position, which is easier said than done. We will need to change our position while keeping an eye on the relative positions of the Earth and Mercury to try and get them to line up a little bit better. So let's bring up our location window again, and we'll try to keep it out of the way. They're moving further apart, closer, much closer in that direction. Here we go, we're getting a little bit closer. It is tricky. Of course, the sun is very, very big. So even small adjustments on this map are actually very large adjustments in comparison to the entire surface of the sun. So here we go, we're a little bit closer, and this is certainly going to get difficult, so I might need to make much smaller adjustments to try and get things to line up. Of course, I don't want the adjustments to be too small, otherwise things will take too long, but it looks like we are at least going in the right direction here. Try and pull these things over a little bit. just to keep them in view. Hopefully I won't overcorrect here. That is certainly the wrong direction, so we'll come up. We're getting there. This is difficult, and I don't want to just type in numbers because it does involve very small corrections to get these things to line up perfectly. And it is interesting that although Mercury is so small compared to the Earth, Mercury is the smallest thing that we consider a planet. Pluto, of course, is considered a dwarf planet. So Mercury is the smallest planet, and it's smaller even than some moons. But here we go. From this location of the sun at just after 2 o'clock UTC, here is an occultation of the Earth by Mercury, pretty much at least. Of course, time is still moving here, so that's going to pull them out of view. But there we go. There is an occultation of the Earth by Mercury, the Earth completely being obscured by Mercury. So here's Mercury completely obscuring the planet Earth. And we can see that this does take a few minutes to happen. While this is happening, a shadow of Mercury is passing across the Earth, but it is such a tiny shadow, I don't think it would be visible on the Earth, which means we won't be able to track the passage of the transit across the Earth the way we can with a lunar eclipse. Or at least I don't think so. So this is pretty much the perfect alignment. We'll get things back a little bit closer to perfect. There we go. So this is the Earth perfectly behind Mercury. We'll take a closer look. It doesn't look like there is any Earth sticking out anywhere except maybe there, but that may be a shadow. So here we go. We're going to go to Mercury, and we're going to go to the side of Mercury that is facing the Earth during this transit of Mercury in front of the sun. So here we go. This is Mercury. We are on Mercury. We're going to hopefully not cause time to move forward. There's the sun. So we are on the daytime side of Mercury here. We'll move around to the nighttime side of Mercury, which puts the Earth almost exactly in the middle of the sky, which is a good sign. And we will take a closer look. Now, as I mentioned, Mercury is so small that I do not think there will be a shadow visible on the Earth. I don't think we will be able to do the same thing as the eclipse. It doesn't look like it to me. Turning through the day here, coming up to the peak moment of the eclipse, or at least where it looked like Mercury was eclipsing the Earth when we looked at it from the sun, I'm not seeing a shadow here. I'm not seeing a shadow of Mercury, which really says how small Mercury is. Even when Mercury blocks out the entire Earth when seen from the sun, if we look at it from the Earth, Mercury is just a tiny little dot. So if we go back to the sun, I will need to go through all of the tiny adjustments again to get things to line up perfectly. If we zoom back out, I'm sure Mercury will be nearby, but of course not actually in line, not actually in the correct place for a transit. As demonstrated, it is a very small location of the sun that allows you to see Mercury perfectly blocking out the Earth. However, if we return to the default location here on Earth and take a look back at the sun, we will be able to see the transit of Mercury occurring. Because transits of Mercury do take a while, because they do last for quite a while, that means they're visible over a large portion of the Earth, because as the Earth turns, we're able to see Mercury from different locations on Earth. So we'll come back here. There is Mercury. We can see it just barely coming onto the sun here. We will zoom in and take a closer look. We might as well make this as perfect as possible. So here is Mercury. We can see the sort of granular texture of the sun. There's Mercury touching down at just 12:30 UTC. We will pull out. We are looking at this in November, so the time in Ireland is UTC. This isn't using summertime, which of course Ireland is using at the moment. As we can see, Mercury is smaller than some of these sunspots. Mercury is closer to us than these sunspots and still appears smaller, which should give you an idea of how large those sunspots really are. Taking a closer look here at Mercury leaving the sun, it's just starting to leave the sun there at almost or just after 6 o'clock. We'll finish leaving the sun by the looks of it here at just after 6 o'clock, so not too much of a difference. But that is hours. That is a 6-hour long transit, give or take. Almost a 6-hour long transit at least. So that is Mercury as it crosses the sun, and we can see that it appears to be going more directly across the sun here. That's because we're not watching the sun come up from one side of the sky and go down on the other. We're watching the sun as it's setting here, as it's going under the horizon. So we're not getting that kind of turning effect that we get when these objects are high in the sky. So if I can grab the moon, thankfully the moon is very close to full here, 98%. So that is very close to full. It should be close enough for our purposes. We'll get everything lined up. So here is the moon just coming up. And as the moon comes up, we can see that the Sea of Tranquility is pretty high on the moon. As we come up to midnight, things sort of straighten up. The man on the moon, or the football player on the moon, as I describe it, looks a little bit more upright. And as things go back down, we can see it turning the other way, with the Sea of Tranquility sort of facing down, tilting down towards the horizon. So just to demonstrate that there at the end. That was the transit of Mercury in 2019 from a few different viewpoints. I hope that you enjoyed that view. If you did enjoy this video, then please do like it. If you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to read this information written down, you can do so on my website, queeveenscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.